Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 31 of Pints and Quarts, a show brought to you by Craft Beer Nation. Today is January 29th, 2015, and we are joined tonight by Mike Malazzi of Borderlands Brewing Company in Tucson, Arizona. So stick around, enjoy the conversation, and don't touch that mouse. All right, theme music jam session. Wow, come on, you guys. Come on, dig into that. All right, there we go. There was a little air guitar. All right, we're back. Thanks everybody for hanging out here with us tonight. I've got Randy Gardner Jr., Gil Mello Jr. Gil, I don't know if your dad's name is Gil or not, but Charles Dunkley. My name's Matt Miller, and we're joined by Mike Malazzi, sitting next to the impressive Victoria Perigin, and she's on the scene at the brewery. We had to send him to the basement because the trains and the noise from the tap room are going on upstairs. It's a wild and ruckus place. So, Mike, how are you tonight? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you're a microbiologist. The website will tell us that. But
Yeah.
what made you wake up one day and say, I know microbiology. I know yeast is a microorganism. Let's just go make beer.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I actually took a research microbiology job in Tucson, but I didn't know anyone in town. And so I started playing for a recreational kickball league. And that's where I met my business partner playing kickball, and he had all the homebrewing equipment, so I started homebrewing with him.
I guess you must be drunk to play neighborhood kickball. Was this like an organized thing, or was it just like, Sandlot kids down at the end of the street?
It's kind of Sandlot, so there's a bunch of returning Peace Corps volunteers that went to grad school at the U of A, so it's mostly like Peace Corps kids who have been used to living without, running water. But kickball.
So there's like 85 years of college on the kickball field.
Exactly.
Everybody's just waiting for mom to yell dinner. Yeah.
There might have been a keg at second base. I'm just saying.
Fantastic. Hey, well, we'll get the conversation going here. Tell us a little about your brew house and what size your fermenters are, or your brewing system is. Tell us a little bit about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started 3 years ago. We started on a 3-barrel brew house, actually. And a couple years ago, we upgraded to a 20-barrel brew house from Premier Stainless in San Diego. And right now we have 5 20-barrel tanks and 3 6-barrel tanks. So we're brewing about twice a week now, about 120 to 140 barrels a month. And we're hoping to ramp that up a little more.
Fantastic. And I guess it's just about getting it out of the fermenters and getting it into cans or into bottles somewhere to make room for it. So
absolutely.
That's fantastic. And that's all in the building above you, where you're at?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 7,000 square foot produce warehouse that was built at the turn of the century. We've got a coal chute. We've got a train that runs right behind.
Nice.
So it has a lot of character. They call it vintage industrial, or some people call it steampunk. So,
How many seats is the tap room? How big is the tap room out front?
Well, we have probably about 150. We just expanded into a new private event space, and then we have a new beer garden that we just put out front for outdoor seating. So it's getting big.
Beer garden. Yep. I like the sounds of that.
Yeah, I know.
How's the journey of somebody just meet somebody, brew a 5-gallon batch to all of a sudden you're brewing 20 barrels?
Yeah, first of all, did you even homebrew before you guys decided to do this?
Yeah. Well, so I'm from Colorado, and I went to Colorado State University up in Fort Collins. So
that answers it all.
Yeah, I actually worked in the Budweiser quality assurance lab when I was a senior there, because they would hire science majors to work in that lab. So, but we did drink a lot of craft beer in college.
But that's just click, or is just the buddy? I mean,
yes. I mean, it's
why do people think maybe I could do this for a living?
It's kind of interesting, like having gotten, my PhD in microbiology and then deciding to open a brewery, it was like, who is even going to think that I know anything about starting a brewery whatsoever? But, and coming out of grad school, I had nothing but debt, so I didn't have any money. But when you go to talk to investors and they see that you have a higher degree, they basically know that you have the stick-to-itiveness to accomplish something that you set your mind to.
That's a graduate word right there, by the way.
Stick-to-itiveness.
That's a grad school word.
It's nice to know that all that homework paid off in investor confidence.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was crazy. I mean, I had to get some dental work done, and my endodontist was a microbiologist and beer aficionado, and I was like, well, funny that you should say that. We're opening a brewery. Yeah. Would you be interested in investing? And that's how it works.
My first question would have been, do you know anything about root canals? I don't think they do a whole lot of teeth drilling in microbiology programs, do they?
That's where you lack of passion. Then.
Good point.
That's pretty.
I should have hired you.
I didn't know we should have been called. I didn't know you had completed your PhD, so we should be calling you Dr. Malazzi.
Please don't call me Dr. Malazzi.
Dr. Shivago.
What's your guys' flagship beer?
Definitely our flagship is our Noche Dulce Vanilla Porter. We actually just started canning it. That's been a huge hit. People, whenever we bring it to a beer festival, we'd have people coming back all the time saying that it's their favorite beer at the festival. So that's definitely our flagship.
Okay. Show us the can.
Oh yeah, we just started canning, so we've got the can right there. It's a 16-ounce tall boy.
Oh, it's a beautiful can too, man. It's simple and clean design.
Yeah.
So you said Noche Dulce. Is it Dulce or Dolce? I've always said Dolce.
So Dolce is Italian, but since we're in Arizona, about 15 miles from the border, it's Dulce.
Both of them mean sweet, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet night.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I've had a few hundred porters, and your porter is really well made. It's very delicious. I mean, there's a lot of body, and again, I'm going to say that on our show. We say this every week, but Rennie and I always we have this thing about you better give us what you promise on the can, and everything that I read on the can comes through on the beer, and that's always an accomplishment that I see on that's a testament of a good brewing.
Yeah, if you set the expectation, me and Gil expect you to live up to it.
Well, we all kind of fall into that category too. So, it's funny that you were commenting, Mike, about being nervous about being a microbiologist. What kind of credentials do you have for opening a brewery? Me personally, as a beer consumer and have a limited knowledge of what's going on in the background, I get excited when I hear that a brewery has a microbiologist on staff, because I think, they're not just repitching the same stupid yeast from beer to beer. These guys are thinking. He's thinking about it. He knows what the organisms are doing. He knows about temperature control. He knows about attenuation and that kind of stuff. So I always I visited Tennessee Brew Works in Nashville, and anybody who goes to Nashville ought to go to that place. But they've got a microbiologist on staff, and she just all of their beers finished clean and have all the characteristics that they want, and there isn't anything extra in there that they don't want. And I look forward to that. So thanks for 15 years of college.
Thank you. Thanks for appreciating it.
Yeah. So as we mute them, what viewers at home and listeners at home now realize is their bar and restaurant and brewery is built right on top of a set of railroad tracks there. I think that thing just went right through the office and out the back door there. So,
but Matt, to the point that you just made, I mean, when you have a microbiologist on staff, I mean, brewing beer is as much an art as it is a science, right? So, the fact that you are a brewer, we know that the artistic part is there, right? You're coming up with recipes, you're trying new things, you're trying to come up with a good product. But at the same time, that scientist side of you is going to make sure that everything along every step of the way is done right. You're probably not going to have as much batches that go bad as other people may have. So along the lines of batches that go bad, do you guys have any like a sour program? I know your capacity is pretty small, and a lot of people are reluctant to introduce souring bacteria into their system. But do you guys throw caution to the wind and brew any sour beers or anything like that?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great question. And so what we actually do have a sour program, and the first sour that we tried turned out to be so popular that we have to brew it all the time now. It's probably our second largest selling beer, and we do sour it with Lactobacillus delbrueckii. But having the ability to kind of monitor the bacteria, make sure that it's dead before we transfer it into tanks, keeps it from infecting all of our fermentation vessels. So we can brew the sour, we can keep it controlled, and it's been a huge success. And people
What you
keep
call
asking
it?
us to can it.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's
What
one of my
you call
favorites.
it?
What's
It's
the
called
name of it?
Citrana Wild Ale. Citrana Wild Ale. It's a Gosa style, so we brew it with coriander and sea salt. And it's got a nice lemony tartness for the sour part, but it's kind of balanced with that savoriness and spiciness from the coriander and sea salt.
So you're holding on a 5% kind of.
So
ABV.
what was interesting is when we measured the alcohol on that beer, the specific gravity, it gave us a different answer than when we shipped it off to White Labs to have it analyzed by mass spec. And that's because when the bacteria ferments the beer, it produces other things besides alcohol, but it changes the specific gravity. And so when you get the finished product, your specific gravity is different than when you started, but not all of it is alcohol. And so it's actually at 6.5. When we sent it off to White Labs, it came back as being 6.5% ABV by mass spec.
That's a big
So-
gozer.
So we had a guy named Michael Tonsmeyer on a few weeks ago. He wrote the book American Sour Beers. And I've never, Gil and I both homebrew, but I've never, and I probably won't ever introduce any kind of bacteria into my system. But do you guys, do people add lacto in the fermentation phase of brewing, or do they add it in the boil, or what part of the process do you add that?
So that's a good question. It can be used, I think, at any point post boil.
Okay.
So what we do is we actually add it to the kettle. We allow the wort to come down to about 97 degrees Fahrenheit, about body temperature, which is their ideal temperature. And we pitch it into the kettle, and we allow it to sour over the weekend. So we always brew that beer on a Friday. And then on Monday, we come in and we boil it to kill all of the lactobacillus. And then we transfer it to a fermentation vessel and ferment it on the yeast strain.
Cool.
So
So you're not sour mashing, you're sour brewing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you get all the acid that you need out of just that weekend, and then into the fermenter it goes, and the lactose done by that point.
That's right.
So when you on your brewery, I mean, a lot of the breweries I see, they're creating their own characteristics. And is there something you guys always look forward to accomplish other than the others of producing good beer? Do you guys have a thing that going on for you, or are you trying to establish specific styles, or you're just trying to roll with the waves?
Well, I think so for us, especially out here near the West Coast, San Diego has really been well known for their West Coast IPAs that are super, super hoppy, basically hop bombs. Mm-hmm. And we've actually been trying to just do some different things besides that. We have that sour we just talked about. We have our vanilla porter. So that's definitely not the whole hop forward beers are not something that we pursue. But one of the main threads that kind of run through all of our beers is we try to use as many local ingredients and local flavors as possible. So our vanilla porter uses Mexican vanilla from this company called Arizona Vanilla Company up in Phoenix. We use roasted pecans in our nut brown, which are grown just south of Tucson. We have a prickly pear wheat that uses the fruit of a prickly pear cactus in our American-style wheat. So that's kind of the theme that we have going through a lot of our beers.
So an indigenous bit of Arizona is your theme.
Yeah, and Tucson's definitely like one of those communities that's really locally minded. We have like a ton of Tucson actually has more nonprofits per capita than any other city in the country. So we work with a lot of nonprofits to do fundraisers and have cool events at the brewery and do things like that as well. So it's all about community and local for us.
Do you use like organic malt and stuff like that, or not
We were
yet?
actually not yet. We were thinking about changing the prickly pear wheat into an organic beer, which wouldn't be too much more expensive.
Right.
But we are working with some of the local vineyards to try and grow test plots of hops for us. And we're also working with some of the local farms to do local wheat strains. We've done a beer with this wheat strain that the Spanish colonialists brought over in like the 1500s. And they're also trying to grow some barley for us to do some other beers as well. So.
You know, toward the end of February, we're going to interview Santa Fe Brewing out in Santa Fe. And,
Oh, yeah. Those guys.
They've got a dry climate hop farm out there. So maybe tune in for that, and we'll put you guys together. And maybe they've got some strains that are a little more desert climate friendly.
That'd be awesome.
So if you ever get like some, some Arizona malt and some Arizona hop, you can, call your beer like Terra Casa or something like that, or just saying, you can have that. You can have that.
Yeah, Randy's
copyright, Randy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Hey, do you guys have any is there like farm bills for breweries or farmers or anything out there? Like in New York State, we've got these new farm bills where the breweries actually get tax breaks and things if they use a certain amount of homegrown products.
There isn't a farm brewery bill, but they just passed through the legislature a domestic farm winery.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that has recently passed in the Arizona legislature.
Cool.
Well, let's take that opportunity to bridge into our first story tonight. And actually, both of the articles we want to talk about have to do with legislation. But specifically, we asked Victoria to read up, she brought it to our attention, a news story from the Tucson Sentinel that's got to do about the Arizona bill that's changing with regards to capacity and stuff.
Yeah, so Arizona beer bill is coming up in the state legislature probably next month, early February, and the main point of it is to change the cap for breweries from 40,000 barrels. Right now, if you reach that cap, you have to get rid of your pubs or your restaurants or whatever. So they're trying to change that rule so that you don't have to lose that business. And then I think there's another part of it that has to do with self-distribution. And what was the other one?
And also being able to sell other beer with that license.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about where you're at now and what this bill will do for you. Because I'm a little unclear about. You talk about guest taps and and food and those kind of things. And how does it really limit you what you're doing now, and how will it benefit after that?
So for the state of Arizona, with a microbrewing license, it allows you to make and sell your own beer, and you can also self-distribute up to 3,000 barrels a year. And you can only make up to 40,000 barrels a year before you have to switch to a producer's license, which is a lot more restrictive. It makes you give up your licenses to have your own brew pubs and restaurants. So it actually puts a pretty low artificial ceiling on the growth potential of breweries in Arizona. If you look at other neighboring states like California, which have just been transformed by the craft brewing industry, their caps on microbrewing licenses are way higher, and you can really see it in the impact on the economy. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish here in Arizona.
Yep.
And so a piece of it will let you do collaborations and have beer into your tap room, because right now the only thing you can pull out of the tap handles is what you've made on premise.
That's right, and one of the things that's nice about the Arizona craft brewing community is that everybody's friends, everyone collaborates. We all get together once a month at the guild meetings and hang out. And what's frustrating is if we do a collaboration with somebody, we can only put the version that we brewed at our brew house on tap, and they can only put the version at theirs. So it allows us to kind of cross-promote, cross-pollinate. And it's not like to take over the entire tap room because you can only sell 20%.
Right.
That's the proposed legislation anyway.
So everybody's friendly until somebody makes a beer called Dulce Nolce, And then
Yeah,
instead of a nice sweet night, you're going to come down on them. Here we go.
it's gonna be good night to them, sleeping with the fishes.
But I gotta give Arizona kudos to their craft beer community, because it's awesome to see more craft brewers working together, and it doesn't seem to be like, based off of what you just said, it's not like, oh, let's get together and brew a collaboration beer, but it's just like that community feeling all around all the time. And I think that, I mean, that's what craft beer is about. It's about the craft
Community.
and
Right.
it's about the community and the people who enjoy this beautiful thing that we call beer. And it kind of breaks my heart when I see breweries suing each other for what us consumers perceive to be trivial reasons. Granted, we may not necessarily understand all the business behind it, but there just needs to be more of a collaborative effort and a more community feel around beer. That's what it's about. We drink beer because it causes us to have fun with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But at the same
we need
Exactly.
more of
time-
that.
Same time, there's a livelihood. That there's employees that you're responsible for. There is the business that is a lot of pressure when you grow. And that's what we're talking about before. I mean, I have this view that where you guys are right now at 15, 20 barrel is where you make it or break it. But it's hard. I know there's
Yeah.
some lawsuits are a little bit over the edge, but there is that protecting side of you want to make sure your brand is respected and all that. So it's kind of
Well, it's
fine
true. I
line.
mean, you do feel a little bit defensive about certain things, but I think if you get too defensive, the community starts to pick up on that, and they don't respect it.
No.
If you can take something that happened to you that you consider to be a slight in stride, and turn it into a positive thing in the community, people are going to respect that a lot more, and they're going to notice if someone is doing you a disfavor, and they're going to likewise not really respect the brewery that's trying to attack your brand or attack your product. So people notice that kind of stuff. You don't really have to do anything.
I think in the craft beer
Exactly.
market, a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
And the good beer that you're making opens people's eyes. They come into your tap room and they drink your beer and they enjoy your environment. And when the next guy comes in, or when they go to their grocery store, they're going to find something else, and they're going to share the love from there. I mean, if you can enlighten people and enrich people, then it's good for all. Let's talk real quick about Charles's article here. He wants to talk a little bit about, I guess it's more of an update to what we've talked about a few weeks ago in Florida.
Yeah, in Florida, there's been the battle brewing where it started out as actually trying to get the 64-ounce growlers passed so they could sell them, because Florida is one of two states, I think, that isn't allowed to sell them. And that last year, before that was ready to pass, they attached all this other stuff to it to basically challenge the 1963 law that was given to Anheuser-Busch to allow them to sell in Busch Gardens that the state has been using to grant taproom licenses to craft brewers. And the whole thing fell apart last year. And this year, the Florida Retail Federation and I believe it's the Florida Independent Spirits Association, have both sued the Department of Alcohol, Beverages, and Tobacco in Florida to try to get them to stop issuing taproom licenses. And 2 days ago, both of those groups dropped their lawsuit, only because that department has promised to basically review the viability of the 1963 law. They're looking into it. There's a local senator, I believe, who's introduced his own legislation to just try to push through. Yes, this law covers it, to just stop the whole thing, but it's a victory on the surface, but really it's now gone back to the lobbyists now, and now it's all the money from Anheuser-Busch and everybody are going to be pushing them to basically stop. It's still they're just taking a different tactic to stop the growth of the craft beer industry.
Yeah, that's a direct shot at the craft beer industry, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way around it. If it passes, it's gonna kill them, because a lot of those guys on there rely on their their tap room sales and their merchandise sales that come from people visiting their tap rooms, and it kills jobs because now when you shut down tap rooms, there's no employees.
True.
Yep.
So
and this is part of the problem with like state legislation, though, is the ambiguity of outdated laws leads to this stuff. The industry itself is far outpacing the laws that are written. And when you have Anheuser-Busch and those companies that have millions of dollars, and ABC Liquor as well, they just see money being taken away from them. So, and they've got a powerful, powerful lobby, particularly in Florida. So this fight eliminates that, it going to a judge and a judge saying no one can have taproom licenses until it's solved. It's at least gives the craft brewing industry a little leg room or a little breathing room. But it's really meant to go back to lean on the state legislature now to say, yes, the 63 law really doesn't cover these tap rooms, so we shouldn't give this anymore. That's what they're after, because FISA and the FRF are not out for the craft brewing industry, even though they say they are. They're big money lobbyists for AB InBev and them. So but there is a separate legislation that some local guys in the state are just trying to just stop the whole fight and push it through. But I don't know if there's enough votes for it there.
To me, the hardest part is the misinformation you get on the media. It's so hard to know who to believe because you get...
and you look at even at local coverage. I looked at like some newspaper articles and some local TV stations down in Florida, and you would think that that there was no big corporation money behind this. That it was just just fix the little law. Like they don't understand what's going on as far as the industry goes. But this is something that's growing all over the country. In Atlanta, there's another fight going on where Atlanta, they can't even, in Georgia, you can't sell in your tap. There is no such thing as a tap room. You can sell a T-shirt, but you can't buy the beer. So they can only give it away for free, and that's not really going to do anything. Yeah. So the lobbyists there are trying to prevent them from having that period. They don't even want any tap rooms at all in Atlanta. So.
All right, so vacationing in Atlanta is on my thing. Tap rooms are giving away free beer.
Yeah, it's Georgia as a whole, really, not just Atlanta. But.
That's crazy, man. Like I said, this goes back to, you do these things and you're submitting to the lobbyists, but in the long run, you're hurting the local economy because you're putting people out of work, or in this case, you're not allowing people to work, so that's tax revenues that their local economy is missing out on.
Yeah,
so,
and in Florida, like Cigar City is a tourist destination now.
Yeah.
Like craft beer drinkers that visit Florida are going to go to Cigar City Brewing.
Right.
It's amazing. Stone just did a study with their local, tourist organization and found that Stone Brewery was the 4th largest tourist destination in Southern California.
Awesome.
Well, we have a beer garden with gargoyles and...
Yeah, right.
Disneyland and Stone.
And a hotel.
They're paying off.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to we talked a little bit about this beer, Citrana Wild Ale is the sour that they lactose in the brew kettle. I never really heard of souring there. I've heard sour mashing and sour in the fermenting, but I got to learn a little bit more about that, and I'm going to start asking people if that's how they sour things. But one of the dudes that we normally try and find a review from Google Plus, because that's where our community is, a craft beer community there. That's where we all started. That's where we all met. But this time we've actually got a review that someone, did they email this to you, Mike? Was this something?
They emailed it to me like 2 days ago, and I was like, this is the most awesome review I've read. So
somebody actually just says, you know what, I'm not going to review a beer to the internet. I'm going to review it to the owner of the brewery. So I'm just going to email Mike Malazzi. And what's that, MikeMalazzi@gmail.com? I didn't just give it all out. But his email address is private, people. Just try it. But this is what this is the paragraph that this cat said. Do you know this person individually, directly?
No.
All right, I want to know this guy because this is great. I tried your Citrana Ale for the first time a few weeks back at this parlor and restaurant in Phoenix. It blew my mind. Like, my head stayed attached, but if you looked inside, you would see pieces of exploded brain. It was the best beer I ever tried. Just typing this is making me sad I don't have any in my belly. I searched online to see if I could buy it bottled or canned locally. I would even drive to Tucson to stock up. I found your list of places to buy, but I couldn't tell if it was a seasonal. Can you let me know where I can get more of this heavenly brew, or whether or not it's seasonal? Thanks, and keep up the great work. So this guy, apparently this Citrana is worth tracking down.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of our most popular brews. People constantly ask when we're going to start canning it, and it's definitely one of our top sellers.
Is it on tap right now?
Yeah, it's on tap right now. It's on tap all over the state at different beer bars.
Yeah.
So.
So this guy just needs to get a growler and go knock some of this stuff down.
That's
Hey,
what I
Mike.
told him. Yeah.
Mike, I'm gonna go out on a limb and let you know that that guy really likes that beer. So
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure how to interpret that review.
He was on the fence about it.
What
Yeah.
point did you get?
Excited.
All right. Well, let's talk about other releases, things that are getting canned. Gil's got a little list of the year of the can.
Well, yeah, I'm doing the highlight release a little bit different today. Instead of a highlight, one of our releases, I'm gonna make a prediction.
Oh, a prediction. Huh?
So I think based on this month alone, I think easily we can say that this is gonna be a year where we're gonna see breweries moving into the canning line more and more. We know there's always that problem with the initial investment with a canning line is pretty high, but I just in 30 minutes I could put a list of breweries coming out with new cans. We have Four Hands Milk Stout. Trugs have both Nugget Nectar and a Cultivator Helles coming out. Epic Brainless Raspberry, I think that's the name. It's really good. Bell's has a Smith & Rye. Sly Fox has SRT. I think I can't remember what it stands for, but I think it's Schuylkill River Trail or something like that. Boulevard has 4 beers coming out. St. Arnold in Texas. Abita has a Strawberry Harvest Ale. Avery Terrapin Mosaic. La Combre has a can coming out. Sierra Nevada has the Nooner Pilsner and a couple others coming out. And Great Divide just released the Orabelle, I think, a couple weeks ago. And they already announced they're going to can that. And we talked to Ballast Point, what was that, 2 weeks ago? A week or two ago?
Mm-hmm.
And, I had both can and bottles, and it's just, one of those things. So I think...
Trogs.
Trogs has got Nugget Nectar in cans.
Yeah, Nugget Nectar, which they already can before other beers, but it's just moving more towards that thing. And I think we talk about what's going to be the next thing. And 2 years ago we had a show about beer and everything done on cans, and I think this is the year we're going to see a lot of canning. I mean, the shelf is going to grow on the canning side of it. So
I like it. It's perfectly recyclable. It's I don't know, Mike. You guys are canning and bottling there. I'm sorry, you're not bottling anything, right?
No.
So from an investment standpoint, is a bottle filler cheaper than contracting in a canning company, or I mean?
No, not at all. I mean, that's the thing with new breweries. To have the capital investment required to get a line of your own is just so far out of reach. But you see so many benefits from being able to do it that using a mobile canning line for us was a no-brainer. The margins are higher on cans than they are on kegs, and it gets you out into the marketplace in a much bigger way than kegs could ever do, because you can be anywhere with a can than you can be with a keg.
How does that work, real quick? Do they just pull up next to the building and then you just fire hose the beer out to them?
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. You just pump it out to them, and they can it right in the thing, and out the back of the truck comes the.
Yeah, so the canning line comes in 2 pieces. It's basically the depalletizer that feeds all the cans into it, and then you have the canning line itself, and it fits into like a medium-sized moving van. And for us, they usually come and set up the night before, We hook up our bright tank to the canning line, and we can for about 6 hours, knock 40 barrels out, which is about 400 cases in 6 hours. So it's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Gil, what were you getting ready to say?
I was just about to say is like having a mini keg on your hand. I mean, there's no light. You know, I know there's a lot of things going on about the linings and stuff like that, but I will die. At least I will die happy with a nice beer.
Yeah.
I think plastics have come so far. I mean, they can make BPA-free plastics and things like that. So, I mean, a can is the absolute perfect vessel for transporting beer. Period. I mean,
no light. There's no light exposure.
No light, no oxygen.
Yeah.
Which are beer's two main enemies. And what else can you? I mean, is there another?
It's stackable. It's recyclable. You can take it anywhere. It's not gonna. If you want to go have an outdoor lifestyle, it's not gonna break inside your backpack or whatever. You know.
Let's be real. We're not seeing the end of bottles, right? Yeah, we're not seeing the end of bottles.
No.
I think that's not going to happen ever. It's just we're going to see an increase on breweries going to can.
I don't know if somebody comes up with a 750 milliliter can.
Well, there's. Have you guys seen the crowlers?
Yeah, Oscar Blues machinery. Yeah, there's a 32 ounce. Yeah, so there's a 750 or practically.
Yeah, we discussed those, and Santan does the crowlers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's right. There is a crowler machine there in the Tucson area. All right. Well, other releases of note are Foothills in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, has got their Pilot Mountain Pale Ale. This was a year-round tap only that got bottled for the first time. That actually is really, really close to the name of Alaskan's Pale Ale. That's a seasonal. It's Mountain Pale Ale, wasn't it? Wait, it was Big Mountain Pale Ale, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Big
I think
Mountain
so.
Pale Ale. So Pilot Mountain Pale Ale, Big Mountain. But hopefully there isn't a lawsuit happening there. Deschutes has got. Is that Jubal? Like Jubal or Jubel? Jubel. 2015 is a strong ale with it's aged both in Pinot and Oregon Oak barrels. That's an 11% a beer there. Yeah, that's right. Boulevard's got Stout X. That's a coffee from their Smokestack series. That's 11% also, coming out the 10th of February. Trogs in Hershey has Cultivator. That's apparently a spring seasonal for them. That's a Hellas Bach. That's coming out in the next couple of weeks. Fatheads in Middleburg Heights, Ohio. Gogglefogger Hefeweizen. That came out yesterday. Gogglefogger. So what's that? Cold, snowy. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to say there with Gogglefogger, but it's.
I love their balls.
Probably not scuba diving.
No, but maybe scuba diving. Yeah. I'm just gonna keep saying it because Gogglefogger really is fun to say. It's like right on that edge of, is he saying?
Yeah, something to do with beer goggles, maybe.
Yeah, like if I said Googlefogger, there'd be like a lawsuit. Like Gogglefogger, go for it. Flying Dog out of Frederick, Maryland. It's got Mexican hot chocolate stout brewed with Serrano chilies. That's coming out next week. Southern Tier has got What the Hell is Summer. That's a 3 beer. It's a 3 varieties of hops and 3 varieties of malts. That's coming out this week. Modern Times has got City of the Dead Coffee Stout. It's brewed with, I love this, it says coffee that's aged in a bourbon barrel. So they bourbon barrel aged coffee, and then they added it to the City of the Dead Coffee Stout.
A light roast to it, yeah.
A light roast to it, yeah.
I'd love to try that.
That is really cool sounding. Firewalker, Firestone Firewalker in the Middle Ages. Firestone Walker Barrel Works out of Paso Robles, California. Feral 1, batch number 2, Liberation. It's an American wild ale that is aged in French oak and American oak, anywhere between a year and 4 years in the barrel. That's coming out on Valentine's Day. Nothing says I love you, honey, like a batch number 2 Liberation American wild ale.
Nothing says I love you like a feral one.
Yeah. St. Arnold out of Houston, Texas has got Divine Reserve number 15. It's their Russian Imperial Stout. This is the base beer for the barrel-aged Bishop number 8. And then I would imagine also the base beer for that pumpkin aged deal that was out last year. And that is the releases. What else you got? What besides the Dolce Noche, the Noche Dolce? What do you guys have releasing there at Borderlands?
We recently just released a horchata cream ale, which is horchata is like a Mexican soft drink made with vanilla and cinnamon. So it's pretty nice. We also have a Smoke and Iron smoked Scotch ale that we just put out. And we're about to release another Scotch ale that we did in collaboration with Grand Canyon Brewing based up in Williams, Arizona, that we're calling Scotchy Scotch Scotch Ale.
Scotchy Scotch Scotch?
Yeah, that'll be aged with Scotch oak barrels.
So there again, we're talking about litigation. That's 3 scotches. So 3 Scotch
listen,
tape. I think you're in trouble.
There's a cartoon on Nick Jr. called Yo Gabba Gabba, and they have a song. They're like dancey dance 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 dance, something like that. And you guys are like Scotchy Scotch Scotch Scotch. So,
God, I hope Nickelodeon's not going to see it.
Yeah, we're all
You should
going
have just called it hopscotch and go for that. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
If you were going to spend 9 years in college, man, it should have been in law school. Screw that microbiology. All right, festivals. Let's talk about some festivals. We got the 6th annual. This is 6 years in a row down here in Charleston, South Carolina. A little festival we like to call Brewvival. That's coming up the last weekend in February. A good many Craft Beer Nation folks will be there staggering around in the mud like everyone else. A good many everybody's are going to be there. So if you're in South Carolina or you want to go to South Carolina that last week in February, get your tickets now because they're probably about to sell out. Mm-hmm. Ashley, who's apparently a very popular person in Westland, Michigan, has the Ashley's Belgian Beer Festival that is 10 days long. It goes from the 5th to the 15th.
That's so crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, Ashley is going to need a cab ride home on the 16th. I don't
Uber, Matt.
Get an Uber ride home. I don't think Ashley's walking anywhere. I'd like to know who Ashley is. She's very, very popular, especially if she drinks that much. I don't know. The KLCC Microbrew Festival in Eugene, Oregon. That is the 6th and the 7th. Today is, so that's what, next weekend, huh? San Francisco Beer Week starts on the 6th, and that is in the San Francisco Bay Area. So get on out there that way. Lots of cool stuff in San Francisco. I mean, I don't know where they're all at. It's all connected, but Russian River's right out there, and all those kind of good stuff. So Big Brew New York Beer Festival is in White Plains, New York, just outside of the city, upstate. That is on the February the 7th, and Bonita Springs Brewfest is in Bonita Springs, Florida, so that is also February the 7th. So that is those festivals. Tell us about the festival down there next week.
Yeah, in Arizona we have our Arizona Beer Week coming up, the 12th through the 21st, and the highlight of that is February 14th, Valentine's Day. We're going to be having the largest beer festival in Arizona. It's called Strong Beer Festival. Over 100 breweries, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
So it'll all be single guys, because no married guy can get his wife to go to a beer festival on Valentine's Day.
It's funny you said that. I'm actually an ordained minister as well. So we're talking about marrying some couples at the festival. So it should be interesting.
Man, how did you have time? I mean, how many years did you go to college? I mean,
in the name of the barley, the hop.
You guys should totally do some holy water beer.
There you go. Yeah, we actually, that's what we call our anniversary barley wine. Agua Bendita means holy water.
Great name.
That's classic. That's great. Well, hey, everybody, Mike specifically, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. You guys are great. We're looking forward to trying some of your beers as soon as we can talk Vicky into shipping them to us. So, Vicky, get on that. We'll all
Jesus was Hebrew, so.
He brewed, man. He brewed. All right. Thanks for finishing the show with that, Randy. Hey, guys, we'll be back next week. Oh, my gosh. Who do we have on next week? We have Kim Jordan. We're going to talk with New Belgium's CEO, Kim Jordan. So tune in next Thursday night at 9:30 for that. Until then, everybody, find some great friends, get some great craft beer, and mind those P's and Q's.
Thanks, guys.